Hello.
Hello.
Welcome out to Wildly Curious. Welcome back to Wildly Curious. Apparently, when I'm on microphones, I'm used to saying, hey, welcome out tonight.
And what is it? Were you like a DJ at some point?
I was in a band at some point.
Oh, that makes sense.
Something's making some weird noises. Do you like a crackling noise?
Yeah. Wait. No.
Whatever.
No.
If you hear crackling noises, that's just part of the program. That's our special code.
Sound effects.
Sound effects. So much has happened. We know we're about a week late. We're sorry about that.
Maybe we should just stop saying we're late and then it's just a surprise.
Oh, surprise. There's a new episode out.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Just pretend like everything's fine.
Maybe this is only on TV shows, but I feel like you always hear about like, oh, so-and-so could be dropping a new record any minute. Or like, there's like that element of like, ooh, something big's going to happen, but we don't know when. Maybe we just need to commit to being those people because we really seem to struggle to have a schedule and to pre-plan for like when we are out of town and when we're busy. And I mean, even just the past couple days of wanting and trying to podcast has been
a little chaotic.
Challenging.
And then yesterday I felt like tearing the studio apart and redoing it, but
I feel like that's been a 3-day long project for you.
I got tired halfway through. I've been tired ever since we got back from Europe.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I start the day like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. I got so much energy. And then by like 1, I'm like, why are we in bed? It's like 10 o'clock p.m. right now. Like,
yeah, I feel that. I don't know. I think I think I've adjusted from the time difference.
I think I have too. I think I'm back to waking up at a normal time in the morning now.
But I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Because I feel that too, where, I mean, yesterday was like a really crazy day, but even today where it's been a little more chill, I find myself by like 1 being like, I have no motivation to do anything anymore. So although I didn't take any Adderall or anything today either. So,
well, maybe that's it.
It could be. I don't know.
I don't know.
So hard to like go and be doing all the things we're doing. And
so speaking of things we've been doing, let's fill everyone in on what we've been doing the past couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell them?
Well, we went to Europe. I think that was a
thing
that you led with.
That's kind of vague.
I mean, we went to London.
We flew to London.
We saw a lot of pride flags.
Oh my gosh. On Regent Street by Oxford Circus. There was...
Which, if people don't know where that is or what that means, how would you explain it? Like,
Okay.
Is there a U.S. equivalent? And I don't actually know this. Like, is it like Times Square?
No. I would say Piccadilly Circus is like Times Square, and Piccadilly Circus definitely is not far from Oxford Circus and St. Regent Street.
And none of these places are actual circuses, which I was a little disappointed the first time we went that it was just like shopping.
As a circus person, you were quite offended.
Yeah, I was a little upset that there's misleading.
This may predate you a little bit, but I want to say, was it Wayne's World? Where they went to Piccadilly Circus and Garth was like, wow, this is a shitty circus. So that was your experience a little bit.
Yeah. But so again.
So anyways, so the equivalent, you go up the street from Piccadilly Circus, which Piccadilly is like a big tourist thing. But you go up the streets and the equivalent, I guess, it's where the bougie shops, well, not the super bougie. That's over by like Harrods and South Kensington, but nice shops. The equivalent, if you know Chicago, would be like Miracle Mile. If you know New York, it would be like Fifth Avenue a little bit, maybe. It's just there's a lot of nice shops. Mm-hmm. There is, it's slightly less touristy up at Oxford versus Piccadilly. Because it's just shops. Like you go there, it's shopping and it's nice and it's beautiful. But the entire street, St. Regent Street, which does connect from Piccadilly Circus all the way up to Oxford, and then it kept going. Like it just kept going.
And it kind of curves around. So like we get there, And we see
some flags.
Banners of flags, like 5 or 6 flags attached to a string connected from one side of the road to the other.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 across. And then like we see
rows and rows and rows.
When we see it, as we're walking up, we're like, oh, that's cool. They put a couple of these by the entrance. And then like 100 feet later was another set of 5 massive flags. They're pretty big. They were the size of cars at least. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then we turned the corner and then we realized
it spans down the whole street.
The whole street, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flags. I forget what they're called. They're the pride flags that include like the representation of people of color, intersex color. You have the triangle that kind of cuts into the flag. And that kind of took me aback a little bit. Like, I know London is a progressive city.
Mm-hmm.
I know I feel safe everywhere I go in London. There's no questions there. But to be that bold that their major thoroughfare, and not just a major thoroughfare, but a major thoroughfare where there's tons of tourists.
Yeah, because Christmas time is when it's all lit up.
It's like angels
Christmas,
and stuff.
yeah.
And so, man, I was kind of floored because they wanted it known that on this street. Yeah, I honestly was lost for words.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was really cool.
Unexpected.
It was unexpected. And I think it was unexpected just because coming from the U.S., we don't see that a lot.
No.
Anywhere.
Yes, correct. I mean, like, not to that degree. Like, businesses have a flag or houses or whatever, but...
That's true. That's true.
Unless I think it's, like, the actual pride where you have, people who are kind of putting up things versus, like, something that's sanctioned by the city where, like, the city's putting something up.
Yeah.
So
we were in London. How long were we in London for? Just a day, right?
A day and a half.
So we fly anytime we've gone to where we're going to tell you about next. We fly into London because we live in Denver.
You're acting like it's a huge secret.
Well, I want to talk about it separately.
Okay. You could just say anytime we fly to London.
Well, anytime whatever. We fly, we tend to fly into London because there's an easy flight from Denver to London. And it's just a really easy flight. It's a really nice plane. And it's great because it kind of breaks up the trip. And then from there, from London, we typically take the train to go down into France. And we did that this time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about France?
Well, so we went for Pride, Disney Pride.
But
it was interesting, though, too, because, when we got there a couple days before the Pride night, there were still, like, some of the businesses in there, like, downtown Disney area, Disney Village, that's what they call it.
Disney Village, yeah.
They had, like, some pride flags and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, they've got pride flags and stuff. But then the night of the actual event, like, their Disney Village area, just their, like, shopping and dining area that you, like, walk through if you're at the hotels or whatever, that was, like, totally decked out for the night too. Which was surprising because I figured, it's one thing for it to be in the park, but then it actually, like, extends out of the park as well.
There was, like, projections and things, like, on the walls that say, like, love and inclusion and all
pride.
That.
And then there were flags, and it was nice.
It was really, really well done. And we are definitely the people that we've been to Paris. We've been to the city of, like, in the city of Paris before, and it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it's nice, but we really enjoy Disney, which probably makes us weird. That you guys went to Paris? How was it? It was fantastic. Did you go to the Louvre? And no, we just went to Disneyland.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
So that's right. We went to Paris Pride. This was our second Pride we've gone to in France.
This was the trip that didn't happen because of COVID.
This was a trip that didn't happen because of COVID. We went to the very first officially sanctioned Disney Pride night in 2019.
Yes. And we were all set to go 2020. I mean, not all set because when things stopped happening was like February. So we hadn't necessarily like...
We had tickets.
Yeah, but not to the night.
Okay.
Just like, I think maybe we had plane tickets or something.
Okay.
But then it got canceled. And it was funny because I was like, we're all kind of wondering, oh, what's going to happen? How long is this going to last? And I had just sent my passport out to be renewed. That's right. And so I was like, oh God, if we even can go on this trip, am I going to have a passport?
Oh my gosh,
and that I think would have been hilarious if like world shuts down for a couple months and then it opens back up and it's like, oh, I can't go on this trip anyway because I don't have a passport. But that ended up not being an issue because we couldn't go anyway.
It was a little bit longer than a couple months
that
we were locked down for.
But when the passport place opened again, I got mine lickety split,
which was good.
So that was nice.
So we went to Paris Pride or to Disney Pride and at Disneyland Paris, and it was
magical.
I did a lot better than last time. Mm-hmm. First time we went, we bought brand new shoes. And they're brand new Vans, and Vans are notorious for not having arch support. And maybe that dates me a little bit that I care about things like arch support. But let me tell you the difference. This time I went in shoes that had arch support, and I was like, let's keep going, let's go all night. Where last time, wearing brand new Vans I'd never wore before, like after like 100 feet, I was like, my feet, I'm done. I'm just going to sit on this bench right here and do nothing. But I was a lot better this time around.
Yeah, it was good.
And it was bigger too. I feel like there were a lot more people there.
Yeah.
This time versus last time.
And they had like their own specific merch for Pride Night.
Yeah.
Separate from like the Pride collection that Disney has.
Yep.
So that was nice. And this is what I thought was really interesting was, you were waiting for the parade to start and you were like holding our spots. Mm-hmm. And I, while we were waiting, went in line to go get us the Pride shirts. And so I'm waiting in line, and if we were in California or Florida and there was a special merchandise for one of these events, they would be gone in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And, people would be buying multiple of like whatever it is, and it's so funny because Disney puts a maximum of like 8 items per person, and I'm like, that's still a lot of items.
Yeah,
who needs 8?
Right.
So I was standing in line and they had I don't know what kind of, if I were to think of like if you were to go out someplace and they had like ice cream in a large like freezer on the ground, it kind of looked like that where they kept a lot of the shirts in.
Okay.
It's just a container of some sort, but whatever. And there was a cast member who's like, handing out the shirts. And everyone was literally just taking one. Everybody just took one for themselves. Just like one.
As opposed to buying tons so they can sell them later on eBay or something.
Right. Like it was, they just took what they needed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and I don't even feel like the guy was necessarily there to like monitor people taking things. I think it was like, he knew where the sizes were. He knew how it was organized. And they had carts around the park for you to buy it. So it wasn't like you just go into the main store and everything is there. So there were multiple locations. But it was, I was standing in line and I was like, oh, dang, like, I need 2. Is it going to be weird that I ask for 2? Like, we're both here. You're just not in line with me.
Yeah.
Like, everybody else is just getting 1. So, and I went up and I was able to get my 2. No big deal. But it's just such a different version of, like, consumerism.
Yeah.
And like all of the merch, anybody just took 1.
There's a lot more. I felt like there was a lot more courtesy there in terms of the people that go and how they act. It's a very European thing. They're not gluttonous. They're not hedonists. They're like, well, I'll be respectful to you as a person, and I'll, do this thing. But we got our merchandise, which was great.
Yes, I was so stressed about that, but that's because America. Now I know I don't have to like stress about it, and it's not a big deal.
So the first thing, the way they kick off Pride Night is with the parade,
which I don't want to make this choppy, but I kind of feel like I need to.
Okay.
Because we intentionally, but also because of how our travel worked out, missed Disneyland Anaheim's Pride.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that one for sure.
And
we didn't know.
No, we didn't.
By the time we bought the Pride tickets, we bought our flights.
Yes.
And then we heard that Disneyland was having an official Pride.
And it was like 2 days before we were supposed to leave. And
Yeah.
it was like, we can't add on more travel on top of,
What we were doing already.
the travel. And that was travel in the wrong direction
Yeah.
too. Whereas at least maybe if it was Florida, we could have done that a little easier. And maybe that would help with the jet lag, because that jet lag kicked our butts. But so they had theirs, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be great. Like, I'm so bummed to miss it. And I really wanted to like support the park and stuff.
Because Disneyland is our park. Disneyland is our home park.
It is. And this was their first ever, official Pride. And I saw videos of it online, and they did not have a parade. They had a cavalcade.
What's a cavalcade?
A short parade.
Okay.
I don't know what the requirement is to be a parade, like to consider a parade, but they had...
It's like a circus to be a circus.
They had like a couple of floats and then a couple characters walking around the floats. So, I mean, absolutely not. And if you went to Disney during COVID, like very similar to how they did their cavalcades where it's just like...
Here's a float and some people.
Yeah. So it was like that, but I think there were like 2 floats.
I think I'm a little disappointed to hear that, because the parade in Paris.
Yes, and this is why I feel like we need to be a little choppy, because there's a direct comparison here.
Yeah.
So that was, and the music was the same, which I was like pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
But that was the Disneyland Anaheim parade.
Okay.
Was that.
The non-parade parade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was like I felt like they were still dipping their toes into...
How out there can we be?
Or not even that, but I just think like, and again, I didn't go, so I can't give like a direct comparison on the whole night.
Yeah.
But I almost wonder if that was their way of like saying, we don't really know what to do, so we're going to do this and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And there's room to improve. I don't know. I feel like they maybe just took a baby step.
Okay.
Right. Whereas I feel like even in 2019, when we went to Paris Pride, they had jumped in the deep end.
Yeah,
they were committed.
We're here.
And this year they were that deep end got twice as deep.
So tell us about the parade.
Well, you could tell us about the parade.
Okay, fine.
We could both tell them about the parade.
So the start of the night, and this was a little weird for us. It's so much further north than we are used to, that it doesn't get dark there until like 10:30 or 11. Really dark there until 10.
But it does make it easier to stay up.
It does make it easier to stay up. And so the night officially starts at like 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. And it always starts with a parade. And
they started with like a opening ceremony where there's like characters on stage.
Oh, and the confetti cannons and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you have like some sort of host person who opens up the event and whatever. We could kind of hear it. We could see it on the screen, but there wasn't audio. And I was a little bummed that they didn't have audio, because as I'm waiting in line for our shirts, I can see this happening on the screen.
Yeah.
But there's no audio.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it would have been nice to hear that.
Yeah. So you had like Mickey and Minnie up on stage, and they were like, ooh, welcome, and stuff like that. And then there was a parade. And the parade, it is absolutely Disney characters.
Mm-hmm. Tons.
They have floats.
Tons. And this parade was... like 40 minutes.
This parade was 40 minutes.
It was so long. But honestly, I feel like if you were to go to a Pride event, and I just am maybe thinking of this now, but if you were to go to a Pride event in your city, it would have felt like that versus a typical Disney parade.
So this is what I think is really touched me, and kind of, I admit, towards the end, I was like, this is getting a little long. The parade, how do you fill up 40 minutes of parade with Mickey and floats? You don't. You fill it up with cast. And this is what the Pride Parade in Disney Paris was. It was every single cast member who wanted to be in that parade and celebrate Pride was in that parade and celebrated Pride. And they moved in sections of like 20 or 30 people, and at the front of every section was someone who was probably like a real parade dancer or something like that was doing the moves, and everyone behind them was just kind of following along and mimicking. And it definitely looked like they practiced. It definitely looked like they all
put work into it.
Well,
and they were, so essentially, they had one section consisted of 2 different groups of cast members.
Yeah.
And the song is only so long that they play at these parades, so it gets to a point they stop. they like have a moment and then they keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily your continuous parade, but you know, there's some breaks and stuff. But so they had groups of cast members for every color in the flag, including the brown and
black
and pink and white, like all of that.
Yeah.
So think about the amount of colors in the flag,
mm-hmm.
and then multiply that by at least the 2 different groups that you would see go past,
mm-hmm.
and then all the characters.
Yep.
And you get 40 minutes worth of fun.
And so that's I think what impressed me most is this parade, hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 total like cast members were in this parade.
And much more than 2019.
Much more than
Easily
2019. 2019
double,
was,
if not more.
Yeah, exactly. 2019 parade was over in about 10 or 15 minutes. Boy George was in it, so they still got that going for him. But
it felt like a typical parade.
Yeah, this one. And I felt a little guilty at the end being like, this is a little long, because it was every single cast member who wanted to be in that parade and there for Pride went.
And a lot of them, I feel like, definitely identified within the community.
Oh, I would argue the vast majority.
Some more obviously so than others.
Yeah. And I think what dawned on me during that parade and this Pride night was, and maybe this is where Disneyland missed it. The Pride night, I got this distinct impression, wasn't for us. I think Disneyland Paris's Pride night was for the cast. I think it was their way, Disney's way of saying, you know what, we see you. And we want you to feel welcome here and celebrated. And that's why we're going to let you be in our parades. And that's why we want you to be in our parades. And seriously, cast was all over the place in that parade. And I think that really kind of inspired me, seeing that. And what an opportunity that could have been at Disneyland, now knowing that.
Which would have been a great opportunity for them
opportunity to recognize the cast that worked there.
Especially because I don't know what the cast has faced at Disneyland Paris as far as treatment from guests.
Yeah.
I know they're striking on and off right now because they want more money because of inflation. So they've got that going on. But I don't know that they have faced, and I would guess that they probably haven't faced as much harassment and abuse from guests post-COVID as Anaheim and Florida have.
Again, it's a more courteous population there.
So it would have been nice to have a moment where the people who were at that event could, celebrate themselves and their community, but also celebrate cast members.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely a missed opportunity. Although I did see that Disneyland had, cast members officially at the Anaheim Pride Parade.
Okay.
Yesterday, I think it was.
Okay.
So they had their first ever official involvement in Anaheim Pride.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They had the balloons and stuff and everything.
That's awesome.
And there was a sign that said cast members are magical.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Still, I think a missed opportunity for Disneyland parks. Let your queer cast be in there. And why I think is so important, because I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, Disneyland, and not even that long ago, Disneyland, you had to fit a certain mold to work there. Even just for the people who work in attractions or food, couldn't have facial hair, couldn't be anything other than a what they build as the appropriate sized individual.
No piercings,
no tattoos. Short crew cut hair almost for guys that work there. The uniforms themselves are incredibly gendered. I mean, they still are to a point, but you definitely had to wear the uniform that whatever biological sex or whatever, you had to conform to that. And I want to say this was up to 2010 or 2015. They were still kind of imposing these standards. And so for so long, they reinforced with the cast of, you have to fit this particular mold to work here. And then it changed. And now I see trans people all the time working at Disneyland. I saw that too in Paris, actually. And that was kind of cool, was the cast members for the Paris Pride tend to put on a lot of makeup and really cool looking stuff on their faces.
Mm-hmm. They went all out.
They did go all out. And a lot of them had these, it wasn't makeup. It was like these bright things.
Like
that are
jewels.
Like stuck on their faces. And the couple days we were there, we would see cast members every now and then like rocking that on their face. And we're like, oh.
Well, it was before the event that we saw it.
I thought we saw it the day before too.
I don't think so. I don't know. I may not have been paying attention.
Either way, but definitely day of, we saw these casts that were rocking that. And we were like, yeah, that's going to be cool. And then they were all in the parades.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic.
So, but I think also too, the demographic of the night, the people who went to Paris Pride versus the people who went to Disney Pride. And again, I don't know this because I didn't go to Disneyland Pride.
We will be there next year.
Yes, we will. But I have been to enough Disneyland events to be able to say that sometimes, and they have all these like they're themed after dark events,
like Pixar Night or
Princess Night,
Throwback Night. I want to go to next year.
Throwback Night was so great. I thoroughly enjoyed that. We're gonna have matching outfits if you go with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Mouseketeers or whatever Annette Funicello would wear, like the red skirts and the
yeah. So there are absolutely people who go to those events because they love the theme.
Yeah.
Right, and they dress up. And it's all about, like, the theme.
It's fun.
And then there's people who go, I think, just because it's an opportunity to go that's maybe a little cheaper, less crowds. Like, they're taking advantage of, I think, what it is, the event, right? So, like, if you were to go to Sweethearts Night, you and your significant other. But I guarantee you there's going to be kids there. There's going to be,
right.
people who maybe don't have kids. Like, I'm sure there's just a gamut of people. And this event was very clearly like 99% adults.
The Pride one at Disneyland.
Pride one at Paris.
Oh, Paris, yeah.
Was
I
predominantly
think I saw
adults.
maybe like one or two kids.
Yeah. And it was predominantly, it felt like queer community.
Yeah.
You could see people with their partners. You could see, people who were dressed up, and it felt very authentic, and it felt very much so like they were coming, because this was an event that included them, that was for them.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was full of people who did not belong to that community.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge difference, because I could totally see so many people who would say, oh, I'm an ally, I'm going to go to Pride Night.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a little bit. And not that allies couldn't go, but I definitely saw, as I'm looking at videos online before our trip, I saw someone who was like, oh, I'm at Pride Night and I'm an ally and I support all my friends. And I'm like, well, where are your friends? Like, are you there with your friends?
Yeah.
And then I saw somebody else who I follow, and she was there, and I was like, what are you doing there? And then later she posted a video that she went with some of her queer friends. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. You're with people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like that maybe kind of cheapens it a little bit.
I think it misses the point of Pride. And I've been thinking about this since you and I talked about it. We talked about I think we joked about you need to show your gay card in order to get into one of these events. And I mean, don't go deep on that. Don't think deeply on that. Just on the lighthearted passing service. Yeah, that would be cool if there was a gay card so you can get into queer spaces. Don't think deeply on that one. It was just high level funny. Okay. But Pride is about existing where you're not allowed to exist. And so every time I hear the question of ally has really been on my mind a lot lately. And what does it mean to be an ally? And allies never suffered the way the queer community suffered.
Though you could argue to a certain extent, there are those queer adjacent allies where we're talking about this is your parents of your trans kids.
Yeah. Who
are definitely in the thick of their own suffering that is,
yes,
as a result of being so close to someone. So maybe we're not talking about those people.
Yeah, we're not talking. Yeah,
or you're not talking about those people.
I'm not talking about those people. If you're a parent of a queer kid and you show up at Pride Night, just that to me is just a reflection of love for your child and what they've experienced and what they're going to experience. No problems there at all. None. In fact, I think that's fucking awesome. What I'm talking about is all these people who consider themselves cool and aware and, oh, so I'm an ally of the trans community or I'm an ally of the queer community. And it's like, really? When was the last time you had a rock thrown at your head for being an ally? When was the last time you weren't allowed in a space because you were an ally? Never. Never. And there's a saying that says if you're an ally, if you're not being injured, then you're not a close enough ally. You're not standing close enough to the people being hurt. And yeah, I think it really frustrates a little bit. Maybe it's easy for people to say they're allies.
Well, and I think for Pride in particular, it's such a different way of honoring the community compared to like Black History Month, where both of these communities, marginalized communities, have a month that is dedicated to like
existing.
Yes, but there are no parties on Black History Month. There's no celebrations for Black History Month, at least none that are, wide enough to.
Well, I love seeing Juneteenth starting to really take traction.
Yes.
As a holiday and a thing to celebrate.
Yes. But so far, like, ways in which we have honored and shown respect to marginalized communities have been, here's recognition, we'll teach about it in schools.
Yeah.
It's different. Whereas Pride, we're not teaching about it in schools, but like, here's a whole month to go party. And so I think that it's easier for people to step into that, I'm an ally, I want to go have fun, versus, something like Black History Month where it's a lot harder to insert yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's not what it's for. It feels like it's like learning, it's reverence, it's reflecting, it's honoring and it's understanding, whereas Pride doesn't feel like any of that.
Well, and let me tell you too, with the influx of these I've had some people before tell me that the A in LGBTQIA stands for ally. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You're not actually part of our community.
Though back in the day, it could have.
I disagree.
When it was a lot less mainstream to be accepting, I think definitely put you in a different caliber. But now at this point, there's a lot more acceptance, and so acceptance does not equal allyship.
Exactly.
Whereas before, I think it did, because there were the queer community was so closeted and so separate from everything.
Yeah, that just being out and for gay rights made you a target of.
Yeah, and those allies were a lifeline.
Yeah.
A person who you actually could exist in front of, who was not necessarily in your community, but who was in your non-queer community.
And I think here's the thing about allies. I'm scared around people. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've come across in my life. They're like, oh, I'm an ally. And I'm like, I have no idea if you're safe or not. I have no idea if I can be around you or not. And so when you come to a space as an ally, a queer space, a place celebrating the existence of who you are, it's a little sketch sometimes. There was a couple people, I think, at that Paris Pride where I'm like, it's clear you're not queer. It's clear you're not, with a kid, like a child or a family member. And it's like, I don't know that I want to be around you. Like there was that guy that we were standing next to in line at the Hollywood Tower of Terror. And
who's calling you?
My daughter keeps calling me.
You're just so popular.
I know. And she just wants to know. I'm not exactly sure, but I will call her back later.
The guy who was obnoxious on the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a cast member, so I think he was clearly a cast member.
But I was a little scared to exist by him.
Well, he was a little drunk.
A little belligerent.
He was definitely intoxicated and ruined the experience of that ride. That was one where I was like, if I only got to have gone on this ride once and I was on this ride with you, I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
Because there's having fun and there's being obnoxious. And so rightfully so. But that was the only thing I really experienced or noticed. But it makes sense for him because he was a cast member. So that was kind of his in, was like, oh, this event's not for me, but it's where I work and I'm off, so I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's fair. So there was other things that took place, though, at Disneyland Paris.
Well, I was going to say something. I guess we've moved on.
No, what were you going to say?
Well, I don't know. Where do we want to go? Where are we going with this? That's where you want to go?
I mean, where do you want to go?
Well, I don't know. I was just going to talk more about queer things and less
talk
about myself.
Talk about queer things, and then we'll talk about yourself.
Well, I don't know. I feel like now we've moved on. We've gotten off that train of thought. The train's
We've
gone.
crossed the Rubicon.
Yes. So we went to Pride Night. We've talked about how it was different from Anaheim, what we've seen, what we think we've seen. But then, we ended up, I think, maybe taking Pride Night a little. What? Can you hear me?
Much better now.
Oh, sorry. I'm in a weird position. Like,
that's why I said put it in front of you.
It doesn't come any further in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But so we ended up on the day of Pride Night getting engaged.
Yeah.
Being, those people.
And apparently your engagement was ruined, though I didn't think it was.
Why?
Because you had this plan.
Oh.
You shouldn't have told me the plan because it was just perfect the way it was.
Oh, how? Okay. So, but here's the thing. So we both proposed to each other. And I think I was pretty clear about, like, I'd love to be proposed in front of the castle.
Yeah.
That would be my, like, if we're doing Disney, that's what we're doing. And so I think that's pretty easy. And I have spent a lot of time trying to think about, like, how am I going to do it for you? What's going to be special for you? How do I make it, like, unique? It's Disney. Maybe Disney isn't, like, your first place you'd want to get proposed to, and every plan that I had fell through. And so it just ended up being one of those, I have to do this. This is the closest way to do it to any of the plans. And, we're not going to be here for much longer. So I just have to rip the Band-Aid off and do it, even though, like, it wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be for you. So that was very disappointing.
Well, I don't think it was disappointing at all.
Well, that's good.
And it took place in a magical spot. So for us, I'm going to let you in on a little secret at Disneyland Paris. Their Thunder Mountain is the best Thunder Mountain.
That's not a secret. I already posted that on Instagram.
Okay.
While we were there.
The Thunder Mountain is the best Thunder Mountain of any Thunder Mountain that has ever been.
Yes.
And I would argue it's one of the best roller coasters I have ever been on. Ever. It's so well themed. It starts out by taking you under the lake to get to its own private island, and the roller coaster is a private island. It's special.
You make it sound like this ride is at a resort on its private island.
I mean, it kind of is.
It's an island. I don't know how.
It's not like a tropical island.
Yeah, but private makes it sound like something other than what it is.
Anyways, so that's been a big highlight for us. And so you proposed in front of Thunder Mountain. Every time we've gone, we've always gone to the same spot where we can see the island and we can just take pictures, and it's just gorgeous.
And I really wanted to have gone on the ride beforehand, so she had extra endorphins and was super happy, and it was closed, and it was just one failed idea after another. Never failed so hard at Disneyland.
There's only one place in the entire world that would have been better to propose.
Where? At a spot on the beach?
There's a particular spot.
Yeah, but I feel like we've talked about that before, and you were like, if we ever got divorced, it would ruin that spot forever.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, yeah, that's not actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, assuming this engagement and marriage will never end,
I can re-propose to you later on, because I would like a do-over.
We'll do our 10th anniversary
proposals. And how long will it take us to do our 10th anniversary
Somewhere
proposals?
around our 20th year, probably.
Yeah. We're not fast. We're not very good lesbians.
So then it came time for me to propose to you.
Mm-hmm.
And Disneyland Paris is interesting because the castle really is a thoroughfare. Like people walking through the castle.
Which is how I think all of them are. Disney World is less through and more around, but still.
Yeah. But so it was super busy, but they had this spot tucked away I'm going to call it the engagement spot. I think they specifically designed it for people to get proposed to in front of the castle because it's this little circle. It's very private. It juts out in front of the castle where if you're standing in front of the circle, it's like literally the perfect picture of the castle behind you.
So usually there would be more traffic because that's how you get to the dragon under the castle, but it was closed.
Yeah, but the circle was still off that path.
Yes, but there would have been more people coming and going than when we were there.
Then we were fortunate it was closed.
Yeah.
So right there in front of the castle.
Yep. And then we got champagne because they sell that at Disneyland.
They do right there on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So that was fun. I was like, we need to do this just because.
So let's see. After that, next day we headed back to London for our flight home. And just, side endorsement, there's a restaurant off Oxford, near Oxford Circus called Head Street. It's a Gordon Ramsay restaurant. And I'm going to rant a little bit. I went to Hell's Kitchen in Las Vegas and I ordered the beef Wellington. It was the first time ever I was going to taste this. And I was so excited.
Not a beef Wellington, but Gordon Ramsay restaurant beef Wellington.
I've never had beef Wellington before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so never. And we went there, and the appetizer was, this is Hell's Kitchen in Las Vegas. The appetizer was kind of gross. They brought out the Wellington, which looks like it had been sitting under like a microwave for like an hour.
My food was actually okay. It's vegan food.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
My food was not. And so I was so disappointed. I was like, I guess that's what it is. But then I heard about this street cafe he opened up in London.
It's not a street cafe. It's a restaurant.
It's a restaurant. They call it a street kitchen. And so it was casual. Like we could have gone there dressed in shorts and T-shirts and everyone would have been fine.
But we didn't.
Right.
We dressed up.
And I ordered the Wellington. And I saw the pictures online of this place, and it looked nothing like the U.S. versions of Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. Every single picture of anyone ever posted, I was like, oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, I want that. And so I go. And needless to say, Gordon Ramsay has been completely redeemed in my mind.
Well, even you got a Caesar salad as an appetizer?
I got a Caesar salad as an appetizer. That was the best Caesar salad I had ever had in my entire life.
And we could have left then and you would have been happy.
I would have been happy.
Yeah.
I mean, the soft-boiled egg, incredible. Who would have thought full anchovies in a Caesar salad would taste good? They do. It was phenomenal. And then the Wellington came, and they only served Wellington for 2. So it's a large portion. And
of course, only one of us was eating.
Only one of us eats meat. And so I was like, okay, I'll take it anyway. And they brought out this platter, and I didn't cry. It wasn't a crying moment. It was a pure joy to eat. It was, oh God, it was so good. It was so good. Anyways, Head Street Kitchen off of St. Regent Street, actually. It's on Head Street, which is a little thing, and it comes off St. Regent, and it was phenomenal. And then the next day we flew back.
Yep.
And what did we fly back into? That submarine thing was in the news nonstop. Russia, I swear to God, I thought there was going to be a coup. That turned out not to work out.
The hockey.
The hockey, yeah.
Well, first of all, the Vegas Knights took the Stanley Cup.
Vegas Knights!
Although that was on the way there. Mm-hmm. That happened, I think. Mm-hmm.
And the Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship. So
yeah, but that's less exciting. For me, at least.
I don't know you.
I don't care about the Nuggets.
Okay, well, they care about you.
But the Knights. Good for them. And you know what? I feel like that them winning the Stanley Cup was redemption for me because I've only been in person to one hockey game in my life.
Yeah, recently.
And it was the Colorado Avalanche, who I jokingly like to call Snowballs, because how is Avalanche a mascot for anything? Versus the Knights. And this guy sitting next to me, I'm trying to have fun. I'm like getting into it. I don't necessarily know all the rules of hockey, but I'm like, yeah, let's see some fighting. Like, punch him into the wall. Let's go. That I can cheer for. I know what's happening there. And this guy next to me was not having any of it. And he was texting people on his phone going, this girl next to me is so annoying. And it honestly made me never want to go to another hockey game again.
Yeah.
Because he was just such a dick.
Yeah.
And he really ruined the experience for me. And when, the Avalanche started doing well, he really made a point of making these pointed jabs, right? Not just celebrating, but really kind of sticking it in there.
Yeah.
And apparently the Knights are a team he hates the most. And I'm like, well, why'd you go to this game?
Yeah.
So I feel like somewhere that guy is eating shit right now because they won.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to think. That's redeeming, at least for me.
That is kind of an asshole move, or someone sitting next to you giving you shit for who you're cheering for.
Right. And I don't think I was being obnoxious.
So that's one of those things. I'm not a Rockies fan. I am a baseball fan, and there are lots of teams I like in baseball. My tried and true will always be Dodgers. They're my number one team. I enjoy the Red Sox. I enjoy the Padres. I love the A's. I love that the A's are going to Las Vegas and getting a new stadium because they deserve that. They deserve.
But again, why do we got to put the stadium on the Strip? Sorry, that's just my own.
It's gotta go there.
It's my own gripe. I don't even live there, and I'm griping about having to go to the Strip.
Needless to say, I love baseball, and I love baseball in all its forms, and I've loved all the teams. I love the Cubs. Being a Dodgers fan, I'm not supposed to like the Giants, but the truth is, God, they have a nice stadium. It's right there on the coast, and it's just a gorgeous stadium, and they're a good team. So I don't know. Anyways,
the
Padres?
No, the
not a big Angels fan, but I don't hate them.
Who are the snowballs of baseball?
The Denver team?
Yeah.
The Rockies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you like them.
So I grew up going to Dodgers games a lot. My grandparents had season tickets, and they were right off first base. They were super close. And so I've become accustomed to sitting by first base. For me, that's the best seat in the house. You can see everything the best. I love first base seats. But first base seats are typically home team seats, and the visitors typically sit over by third base. And especially here in Rocky Stadium, there's a lot of season ticket holders and fans. They always sit by first base, and the visiting team sit by third.
I was really surprised, though, as a side note, when we went to see so many Dodgers fans at the Rockies game.
And that's one of the great parts.
Which is so different from when I went to the Avalanche game, and I was one of 5 people who had on anything Knights related. We were there, but we were sparse. Whereas even just, I think, look, when you were sitting in the stands at the baseball game, you could see
other Dodgers
the mix
fans.
Of fans.
Yeah.
There was a
You absolutely could. Because Dodgers are one of those teams, not unlike the Yankees, not unlike the Red Sox, not unlike the Giants, that have these national kind of the Cubs, that have these national followings. And so, but what's great about that is when you sit and the reason why so many people go to those Rocky Stadium, you can get on first couple rows on first base for $100 a ticket. Where in Los Angeles, that's $900 a ticket. So it's actually really economical to go to. And the Rocky Stadium, not unlike the Giant Stadium, is beautiful. It is a baseball stadium. It's a gorgeous stadium. So I love going to games there and seeing teams because it's just a great experience. And what I think is interesting, there's an exception to this rule. And the exception to this rule is when the Giants play in Los Angeles, and probably when the Red Sox play in New York.
Wait, the Boston Red Sox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're rivalry teams.
Oh, okay.
And in major cities, rivalry teams can get kind of heated and kind of nasty. But at least Rockies, if you show up to us going to the Rockies game with Dodgers stuff, no one's going to give you shit about that. They're going to josh you oh man, you really missed one there, huh? And it's yeah, it's friendly rivalry. And so I'm so bummed out hearing that when you went to that game, someone was actually mean to you about it. That's fucked up. I don't know. Wouldn't have happened if you were in Paris around courteous people.
Yeah, but probably no one would be cheering for anybody.
To be fair, did I just call people from Paris courteous? We'll digress on that one. So on that note, where this was going is I didn't know this, but apparently the MLB.
Hockey.
Well, MLB was first, and NHL cited MLB for doing this. So apparently, before games start, there's always like a warm-up process for the games. And a lot of the players during June, or a lot of the teams, will officially wear some sort of Pride type paraphernalia.
Which they do before any sort of like themed game.
Right, exactly. So like the Coleman month, a lot of the players will wear like pink socks or pink shirts or something like that for breast cancer awareness and all these other things.
And just during the warm up.
Yeah, just during the warm up. Sometimes there'll be like a little like red symbol or like a pink ribbon or something like that sewed on their uniforms for the actual game. But
or they like project it. Like
Yeah.
if it's hockey, I could see them on the ice.
It's a
projected.
classy thing to do. It's letting them know, hey, us as a sport, we're aware that the world is going on, and we want to let you know we have our support. And so, in June, a lot of teams will wear Pride paraphernalia. Is it somewhat pandering to the queer community? Maybe, but also it's, hey, we support causes. Let's support multiple causes. And so the MLB this year or last said, you know what, we're not going to have our players wearing any Pride-related paraphernalia for reasons of safety.
But is it just Pride or is it all of those special events? They're just going to wear their regular practice stuff.
Only Pride stuff has been specifically singled out and targeted.
For baseball. Because what I saw for hockey was they weren't doing that for any of their events anymore.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw it specifically rated to Pride. And the reason or the logic behind that was player safety. They didn't want their players subjected to harassment or calls or anything else for wearing things that could be seen as essential.
Ooh, so I was trying to fact check myself here. And the first thing that comes up is a Vegas Knights Pride jersey. And I'm getting that.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyways, they were saying they're doing it to try to protect the players. And to me, once again, that goes, I just want to say, you fucking cowards. You fucking cowards. NHL is supposed to be tough guys, or tough players at least. And they're not.
So CNN says, as far as the NHL, saying that they weren't going to wear specialty themed jerseys during warm-ups, including Pride jerseys, which follows the MLB's announcement last week that the teams would not put Pride logos on players' uniforms after a handful of NHL players refused to wear Pride sweaters or participate in their team's Pride nights due to their personal beliefs. Some hockey teams opted to forego their planned Pride night warm-up jerseys altogether. And so the NHL says the commissioner's recommendation extends to all specialty-themed warm-up jerseys. So that's at least the NHL. That
sounds to me like oh shit, we're going to get targeted out for throwing queer people under the bus. So let's say everyone.
So it goes on to say, they're still doing whatever, like their military nights, their cancer nights, their Pride nights, but they're just not going to change their practice jersey. They're going to wear their regular practice jersey.
Bowing to the pressure of extremists.
And it is also up to individual clubs on what their promotional nights are. Which I'm sure that's the norm. That hasn't changed.
Nevertheless, it's driving me. It's nutty. We're losing support. We're losing national support, and extremists are winning.
Which is crazy though, because in this article there's a picture of Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah,
and they have I'm assuming their colors are blue and yellow.
Okay.
And their logo's a buffalo and some swords, and around the logo. So the logo is a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Around the logo, in a circle that's, maybe an inch thick, is a rainbow. It's like a half circle.
Okay.
And I don't even... Yeah, that's the extent of the pride that I'm seeing on this practice uniform. That's it. I could have said that it looks like a regular uniform if I didn't know the context of like this picture. So.
Again... let's talk about the NHL players that refuse to wear it because of their personal beliefs. What is your personal belief that you think certain people shouldn't be allowed to exist? Like, what personal belief says I want people to not have equal access to healthcare, to tax benefits, to marriage, to like, what religion? Whatever. I don't want to go off on that one.
Well,
but
I think what's frustrating though is, you know, they have so many other nights and you don't see anybody saying, you know what, I really am anti-military. I don't like the idea of having a military or fighting or war. I like peace. I, look up to Gandhi. I don't want to wear this uniform.
Right.
Like, and maybe the hockey is the wrong sport for like that person to exist, but you don't see people who say, oh, I don't want to support breast cancer awareness, or, oh, I don't want to, to participate in this other thing. I don't understand how, I mean, I do understand, but I don't, how Pride is so different from all of the other things, because on any sort of normal day, do these players talk about or do anything for breast cancer? No.
Right.
Like, I mean, I would probably guess that the majority of them no, right? There's probably one or two who's been affected by it, whatever, like, but no. Do they do anything to support the military other than wear a military something on military night? No. And so just because you do this one night doesn't all of a sudden mean anything.
Right.
Because they're not big breast cancer supporters. They're not big military supporters. Right. They're just like honoring and supporting people and providing space for people.
Yeah.
That's all that they're doing. And, I don't think that participation in that all of a sudden means you're a diehard going to fight for breast cancer for the rest of your life type of person.
And let's talk about this. Let's talk about the rainbow. You have such a fucking problem with the rainbow. Take it up with your God that gives us rainbows every time it rains. Like, I'm sorry that's so offensive to you, that celebrating the fact that people are different. And this is I don't know. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to keep this positive. We had a great time in Europe. We are engaged. High five. Did y'all hear that?
That was weird.
Okay. Well, hey, anyways, thank you for joining us this week. I think we'll have more discussions on this in the future. Until then, this has been Wildly Queerious with Dr. Vota and Master Freer.
Yes. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone.